Hey guys, AJYT here, and welcome to my top 15 worst films of 2023. Before we begin, if you like these movies, that's totally fine. We are going to disagree on the list, and that's fine as well. These are just films that either disappointed me, didn't keep my attention, or just downright infuriated me. Let's get into 3 of my honorable mentions. Also, this video is still sponsored by my foot. It's not healed, but I'm still doing this. At number 18 is Infinity Pool. I really only watched this film for the cast. You have Mia Goth, who was great in Pearl and X last year. You have Alexander Skarsgård, who was in The Northman, one of my favorites of last year. You put them in a film by the son of David Cronenberg, who is known for these really gross body horror films, and I just don't think it was for me. Mia Goth made me crack up quite a few times in this one.
Yeah! Jamesy!
But it wasn't enough for me to like it. At number 17 is 80 for Brady. Yes, everyone, I know this isn't exactly a film for someone like me that loves horror and comic book movies, but truth is, I was just watching this to get another film on the ranking. I was finding it hard to get in different watches this year because I was so busy with work and obviously making other content for the channel. But I didn't think it would be my worst video, for the record, and it isn't even bad, it's just fine. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other for it. It's just a okay movie with some admittedly funny cameos. At number 16, rounding out the honorable mentions, is Peter Pan and Wendy. I've made it clear in the past how much I really dislike Disney for trying to recapture the magic of their past films with these live-action remakes. If you guys saw the last year's video for the ranking, you guys know that the Pinocchio remake was on here, and yet again this year we have not one that's in the top 15, but just outside of it. It tries to at least do some different things with this story, which is more than I can say for some of the other carbon copies we've had in the past. Lion King, I'm looking at you. Unfortunately, what gets it this low on the list is that it just has performances that aren't anything spectacular. It's almost like the people making this just hired their kids to be some of the Lost Boys, and I struggled to remember what happened the next day after watching this one. Honestly, it was just so forgettable. Getting into the top 15 is Ghosted. In a year where AI brought up tons of controversy, memes, and debate, this movie feels like it was handwritten, well, digitally written, by AI. You take Ana de Armas and Chris Evans, two very talented and charming people, and you put them in an action film that is just as generic as you can get. It is so predictable, and I was actively checking the runtime. It's no wonder that it was received so poorly. This was actually meant for theatrical release, but was edited down to fit a streaming format. That's an awful way to present your film, because if you see a film in theaters, you've invested your time and money into it. You got some snacks, you brought your family or something there, and you're there. You've invested too much into it to leave. If it's really infuriating you, you'll leave, sure. But if it's just an action film that's fine, keeps people distracted, gives someone in your family some enjoyment, then yeah, sure, you're going to stay there and watch it. But on a streaming platform, if you're not feeling the film you're watching, you can just back out of it and watch something else. And that's exactly what I'm sure a lot of people that don't do this on YouTube and watch these films for not a living, but just to give you guys insight on what to watch. For the people that are just generic audiences watching this, yeah, I'm sure they did that a lot. They went on to something else. Number 14 is House Party. This film actually has a funny story behind it because it was released in theaters, but it also released on HBO Max like a week later. People went to see this in the theater, and the HBO Max intro was left in at the start of it as if you were watching this on a streaming platform. So that pretty much tells you that this is a nothing movie, really, that no one really cares about it. It's just a comedy. It's one of those comedy movies that you can just sit back and watch some dumb stuff happen. I got, some enjoyment out of it. There was some twists and turns here. It goes in a really weird direction with Kid Cudi, who stars in it. That was very strange. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about there. But I'm sure the cast had fun with this movie, but I'd see myself watching it with, friends just to poke fun at how dumb it is. Not really something to watch as, seriously, oh, I'm ready to watch House Party. It's like, nah, this is not Dumb and Dumber. It's not a comedy that I have so much love for and I watch repeatedly year after year. This is just all the film is worth for laughs. Number 13 is The Pope's Exorcist. This is another really forgettable movie this year. I've never been into these type of horror films, but I've wanted to give it a shot because Russell Crowe looked like he was bringing his A game to this movie, and for the most part, it's just forgettable. Like I said, Russell Crowe is fine in it. It seems as though it's never going to veer away from what possession horror films usually do. And at the end, it just gives up on being different and decides to be just as generic as the rest of these other movies that you get with this premise. The kid actor playing the possessed boy does a good job here, but that's about as much as I can remember from this film. It is just very bottom of the barrel. Number 12 is somehow Cocaine Shark. This movie is both laughably awful and painfully uninteresting at the same time, and yet it's still this high on the list. That should be terrifying to you. I just don't understand, okay? These people apparently take drugs to become sharks themselves, and they're fighting this shark-crab hybrid that's high on cocaine. Obviously, this is trying to capitalize on the cocaine bear craze, and spoiler warning, this isn't the only film on this list that's guilty of that. I'm not going to be super hard on this because it didn't have a massive budget, sorry, and this is just a lazy film. There's a difference between trying to do what you can with a small budget, like, I don't know, I know this is going back a long time, but Halloween, the original Halloween, did not have a massive budget, and they still cranked out a great film. And here, it is just lazy. Just beginning from the fact that they have this idea that they're clearly trying to get people to watch because, oh, we like Cocaine Bear, let's watch Cocaine Shark. And just the camera work is bad in this. It has awful dialogue. And I felt myself, I felt high trying to keep up with this awful story. I've never been high, but I'm sure this is how it feels. Don't watch it. Number 11 is The Slumber Party. This is Disney's version of The Hangover, and yeah, it would be impossible for them to deny that. This was pretty painful to watch. I only watched it because it looked so stupid, and I try to at least get one or two Disney films on the ranking because I just want to see how far they've fallen since my childhood. This film is unfunny. It is really cringe. It's just not a likable cast of characters you have here either. They are extremely mean at times and super annoying all of the time. There are things set up in the story that never fully come back into play later. And some of the things that they say in this movie are just baffling. How do you kidnap the principal of a rival school and then never give the principal back? Yes. They say that. This movie will just make you hate onions as well, for some reason. I'm a Shrek fan, and I still did not like onions after watching this. And yeah, it's a Disney Channel movie. What more did you expect? Number 10 is Expendables 4 or Expend4bles. Even the title is saying it wants to be put out of its misery. This is 103 minutes of watching an action franchise slowly wither away and die. The whole gimmick of these films are to have these big-name action stars doing crazy stunts, dodging gunshots, and blowing stuff up. In the past, all of that was done very practically. It was all practical effects for the most part. And this movie is a bunch of action stars that are barely into the movie themselves, and they're all filming up against green screens with terrible CGI fire and explosions in the background. This is it's just an awful disappointment. I don't know how this franchise fell so far from grace. For a movie that had a budget of $100 million, this is just unacceptable, and there's no excuse to cover up how bad it is. It takes massive leaps in the story that you would just have to really think about closely and be like, yeah, this does not add up, this does not make sense. They tease that Stallone is going to be a main player in this movie, take him out in the beginning of it, and then bring him back at the end, and stupidly explain how he got back and didn't die at the beginning of the movie. I don't... It's a bad year. It's a bad year, guys. Number 9 is 65. This is also another big disappointment because you have one of the coolest film premises of the year in Adam Driver crash landing on Earth 65 million years ago, and he has to fight dinosaurs. The movie almost immediately dashes your hopes that this is going to be a great time because Adam Driver's character doesn't even have knowledge of what he's fighting. He's not a human. He's an alien. That completely sucks out any amount of tension for me, and it makes this movie downright pointless. Because you could just take out the dinosaurs, replace it with another creature, and you'd have the same movie. If it was a human crash landing on Earth, they have knowledge of dinosaurs, they know the threat that it's posing to them, then they would be like, oh wow, how are they going to, outthink these dinosaurs? They know, how big of a threat they were because they are from Earth. This is just an alien that meets a Earth creature, and he has to fight it like you would any other monster movie. It's surprisingly boring as well, and it's lackluster, and it's just one of the most forgettable films of the entire year. Massive disappointment. At number 8 is Skinamarink. This is a movie that I admire for its uniqueness. It's definitely a film that if I had watched this in a theater, I would have been terrified. But that doesn't change the fact that you are stuck watching camera angles of doors, floors, walls, and ceilings for the entire thing. There are scares that are effective in here for sure. I'm not trying to undercut the creativity of it. This use of sound helps the film out tremendously, but it is just not something I ever want to watch again. I was falling asleep, I was checking the runtime, I was getting so bored, and then something would make a sound or something, and it would hold my attention for a minute or so. Outside of that, I had far better things to do with my time than watch this movie. Complete waste of time. Speaking of wastes of time, at number 7 is Pet Sematary Bloodlines. This is absolutely zero reason for existing in my mind, and frankly it's hilarious that this was even released. You need to turn your TV's brightness up to 5,000 in order to see anything going on here. It's easily one of the darkest movies I've seen all year, and not even in a tonal way. You can't see anything. The acting is also not the greatest, so what you're looking at isn't even great once you are able to see something. There is zero tension here. It lacks good storytelling on every level. It's also very unfocused and just boring. I don't even know what else to write about this one in my script here because it's just so forgettable. This was a year for forgettable films. At number 6 is probably the most unnecessary movie of all time, The Exorcist Believer. This film is one of the most insulting horror films I've ever seen. They literally had to donate to a charity for Ellen Bernstein to come back for this film, and they still completely failed to make her return mean anything. She's underutilized, she criticizes the man that saved her daughter in the original film, which makes zero sense, and she was only used to get people to say, hey, this person's coming back to the franchise, we gotta run out to see this in theaters. That's an awful way to trick your audience into watching a film. Stop it. Thankfully, their plan failed and it flopped. There are things in here that do work, like Lydia Jewett and Olivia Markham's performance as the possessed girls, and there is some creepy imagery in there for sure, but it's just not enough to make me forgive it because it was just worthless. It was all meaningless, stupid, I hated this. And you can damn well bet that this is going to be the Halloween special for Media Dumpster next year. I hated this. At number 5 is Taz Quest for Burger. I'm not going to waste much time on this one. It's an animated Tasmanian Devil film for kids, and kids will like it, but as someone who grew up watching baby Looney Tunes and then Looney Tunes itself, this just sucks. Taz spends the whole movie trying to get a burger, and he doesn't get one. Great storytelling. This is also supposed to be a Taz movie, and we spend a load of time with this bandicoot named Quinn that got on my nerves, and I wanted her to get flattened by an anvil and die. Why did I watch this? Because I like to torture myself with movies. Welcome. At number 4 is Monster High 2. If you remember last year's ranking video, I was not a fan of the first one. The second one was so bad that I couldn't even tell you if this or the first one was better or worse. They are once again equally crap. Once again, the source material is very present here. I can see that they're trying to do the licensed justice, but this cringe is unbearable, man. The songs and choreography are fine. I don't have too big of a problem with that. The dialogue and the story, though, are just the worst. You can tell who the villain is. You know the characters that have disagreements will be friends by the end. You know that someone's not going to die. You know that the main character is going to get with the love interest. You know all of these things. Why? Because we've seen all of these movies together before, Anybody that has watched these movies in a classroom or something, a Disney Channel movie, something with your friends, anything, we all know what's going to happen in these films. It's just pointless at this point. But, you know, I watched the first one, so I said, let me check out the sequel to see if it improved. And yeah, I knew it wasn't going to improve. They're almost definitely going to make a third film to this as well. So I guess I'll be seeing you guys next year, the same time, to talk about that one. And number 3 is Cocaine Cougar. Similar to Cocaine Shark, this is a low-budget film. You know what, though? There's absolutely no reason that this film had to be as lazy as it is. The only bright side of this film is that it's barely even an hour, especially when it has 16 minutes of credits. I'm not even joking. This movie is like the skits I do for Media Dumpster. It's totally random and chaotic. And sure, that works for YouTube, not for a movie. Granted, this is a Tubi original film. It's not going to be anything great, because you guys remember last year I had a Tubi original film that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard won. That was an experience, but man, Tubi must say yes to anything, because this is just so much stock footage in this film. Like, literally just, you can go to any stock footage film website, grab that, and you would have scenes for this movie. That's what they did. The intro to the news network in the film can be found on YouTube. I looked that up like 5 minutes into the movie. I was like, I bet this is on YouTube. It's on YouTube. And the cougar has like 5 minutes of screen time, maybe even less. It's a movie that I can make a better sequel to this in Movie Maker. It is just a movie that could have been so much better if they had taken their time, but they just rush it out to capitalize on the Cocaine Bear hype. I'm not saying it would have been a massive hit or anything, but it would have been a hell of a lot better than what we got, because it's just not doing it, man. Not working. These last 2 films spent the whole year in the opposite places that they're in now, until I rewatched one of them recently. That being said, number 2 is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I'm doing a Media Dumpster episode on this next week, so I won't go too much into what doesn't work here, but it is pretty obvious. This was made to capitalize off of Winnie the Pooh entering public domain, and that's it. They did that to get people's money and doubled on that by charging $20 per ticket at an early Phantom screening. This is just not how you want to make a horror film. It's just satirizing and parodying a popular character. That's not enough. You have to have substance to your movie. You can't just say, it's Winnie the Pooh killing people and people will be in their seats. Well, I guess that is what happened, but you need a better movie on display, and then when people go to watch your movie, they're not like, oh, this is going to be just Winnie the Pooh killing people. No, you want to set a bar for your horror films to do better, but this is just not trying to do better. It's better than The Mean One, at least, but that's still a lazy and messy film that only thrived off the idea of a childhood character killing people. And this is one that just thrives off the idea of a horror film about Pooh and Piglet. It doesn't work. My number 1 most hated and worst film of 2023 is Children of the Corn. I had Blood and Honey here before I rewatched that film the other day, and while that film disappoints me, this movie makes me angry. I never want to watch this movie ever again, because it is just lacking any kind of substance or interesting direction. There's no structure to it. The editing is awful. Almost every performance in this is extremely phoned in, and they cap it all off with a CGI corn creature that looks like a rejected concept art for Groot. It was clear that this needed to be the number 1 film, because I had not felt hatred towards a horror film like this since last year's worst film, Hunting Souls. If the filmmakers of that and this film ever collaborate for a horror film, I think the world is over. I think that is the equivalent of Oppenheimer saying that they destroyed the world with the atomic bomb. It's over. I just hope that next year we come back to this list and we don't have so many horror films, because it is sad. I love horror. It's one of my favorite genres to watch, and it's just painful to see all these movies on this list. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment of the video. I'm going to have this little segment where I'm going to cover all of the other movies I watched this year, just doing a kind of a rapid-fire criticism of all of them. Enjoy that. Have a very happy new year, guys, and I'll see you guys for the final time, I know I've said that, in 2024. Before we begin, I just want to let you guys know that these are little messages that I write underneath the films in my ranking list on Letterboxd. If you guys want to check out my Letterboxd account, I will link that in the description. So yeah, here we go. Number 57, Paint. Although I was feeling every minute and no one is that likable, Owen Wilson's charm helped enough. Number 56, Champions. A film that provides a good message, good exposure for these young actors, and more Woody Harrelson one-liners. Number 55, The Nun 2. Shockingly better than the first one, but it wasn't that good to begin with. It's still pretty formulaic and dull at times. Number 54, Anyone But You. A romantic comedy that lacks a lot of comedy, and despite Sweeney and Powell's chemistry, it felt generic. Number 53, Prom Pact. Don't judge me, I like these corny Disney teen movies sometimes. Number 52, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. A fun but forgettable time. It's a bummer that they had to spoil the film to try and get people to buy tickets. It didn't work. Number 51, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Lots of fun, it's just not the best idea to have your big multiverse saga villain get taken down by ants. Number 50, Plane. Keep pushing out these Gerard Butler action films. They are a bit generic, but I'll watch them. Number 49, Dream Scenario. Nicolas Cage is fantastic, and I'm down for more of him with A24, but this one just didn't have the magic I hoped for. Number 48, Five Nights at Freddy's. It's awesome to see these animatronics in live action, but the story and writing left me not so satisfied. Number 47, The Marvels. It has fun, good action, and nice dynamics amongst the cast, but the other elements feel very underdeveloped and sloppy. Number 46, Sick. A sick home invasion film. Number 45, Knock at the Cabin. I miss the classic Shyamalan twist, but it's a good time. Number 44, The Little Mermaid, the first Disney live-action remake I've seen in a long time that didn't make me want to scream. Number 43, Inside. Willem Dafoe going insane is a genre I miss so dearly. Phenomenal work as always from Dafoe. Number 42, The Blackening. I may not get all of the jokes and the twist is incredibly dumb, but it made me laugh, so it did its job. Number 41, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Arthur and Orm's camaraderie hold the film together, though the writing and execution of its ideas and story is very rough. Number 40, Renfield. A fun and bloody film, but it definitely could have used more focus on the Renfield-Dracula dynamic. Number 39, No Hard Feelings. Jennifer Lawrence had a nude fight scene. You really think I was going to rank this any lower? Number 38, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It may lack the charm of the original trilogy, but at least there's no aliens. It's a fine enough send-off for a heroic legend. Number 37, Killers of the Flower Moon. A bit too long for my liking, but the cast, director, story, and cinematography are too strong to ignore. Number 36, Air. An inspiring film with a great cast for sure. I'm just not that into basketball, or Nike, or shoes. Number 35, Elemental. It may not execute everything well, and it isn't super original, but it tries to be entertaining and fun, and it succeeds. Number 34, Asteroid City. An epic cast and very wacky, but this is the weakest direction I've seen from Wes yet. No development was made. Number 33, Blue Beetle. In a year where DC hasn't impressed me, Blue Beetle has enough entertainment, but lacks originality. Number 32, The Holdovers. I'm due for a rewatch on this one, for the record. But the reviews for this aren't writing any big fat lies. It really is a heartfelt film with fantastic performances. Number 31, Poor Things. Emma Stone is phenomenal, Mark Ruffalo is hilarious, and Yorgos crafts a crazy world. I just think it ran on a bit too long. Number 30, probably my most surprising film for being in the top 30, at least this high on the list. A Man Called Otto. They really pulled an up and made this much more emotionally crushing than I thought it'd be. Number 29, It's a Wonderful Knife. A nice holiday slasher that might not have everything perfect, but still had cool kills and a wholesome story. I love campy horror. Number 28, Bottoms. The ass-kicking is hilarious. They surely got arrested for murder. There was lots of bodies, bodies, bodies. Number 27, Fool's Paradise. It's so random and chaotic, but also wholesome. This is definitely my guilty pleasure of the year. Charlie Day should keep his head high. Don't listen to the 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 26, the Super Mario Bros. Movie. It didn't have fart jokes or minion ass in it, so it makes it a lot better than any Illumination film they've done in a while. Number 25, Fast X. I am 100% in. The ridiculousness, the sheer impossibility of what takes place, I accept all of it. Call me a family man. Number 24, Missing, a fantastic thriller with great use of digital footage and screens and a great performance from Storm Reed. Number 23, Strays, a hilarious film about dogs living life, stirring shit up, and dying to rip a dick off. What more could you want? Number 22, Cocaine Bear. No need for the Oscars next year, just give every award to Cocaine Bear. Number 21, Oppenheimer. Similar to Killers of the Flower Moon, it's stretched out a bit too long, but everything else in it is solid and awesome. Roderick rules. Number 20, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. It's a fun adventure with a great cast and lots of hilarious moments. I don't even play D&D, and I enjoyed it. Number 19, Polite Society, a fun and very entertaining ride with a wild twist and two great lead performances in the sister characters. So, that is it for the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed, and yeah, see you guys next year for more, hopefully better, films.